Bounty hunters are the most ruthless, deceptive, coldest people in the galaxy. Nothing will stop them from completing their mission, but how did the Bounty Hunter Guild come about, and why is this such a popular profession in the galaxy? Really quick, if you guys could hit that subscribe and like button, it would be much appreciated and help push these videos to reach more Star Wars fans. Thank you. Bounty hunters primarily work to capture or kill fugitives and others with a bounty on their head. As mercenaries, they were also known to do other jobs for the right price, including the protection of clients. The most infamous bounty hunters were clever, resourceful, and relentless, making them very dangerous to those with wealthy enemies. As a profession, bounty hunting was organized and regulated by various guilds, such as the Bounty Hunters Guild. Bounty hunters occasionally form partnerships, though partnering with a fellow bounty hunter could be very dangerous business, as they typically value their own personal gain and survival above their companion. Despite their political neutrality and independence, many bounty hunters were effective Jedi killers, which made their service desirable to the Galactic Empire. There were often rivalries between bounty hunters and smugglers, serving the same clients, notably between Boba Fett and Han Solo. There were a number of guilds associated with bounty hunters, the largest and best known being the Bounty Hunters Guild. However, it was often plagued with infighting and a general lack of cooperation between its members, climaxing with its virtual self-destruction during the Bounty Hunter Wars. There were other organizations, such as the House Benelix, Kulak Fist, the Gino Haradan, and the Granzi Confederacy that served a similar purpose. Most bounties were presented to a guild, unless the presenter was able to contact the hunters directly. Posted bounties would then be sent to hunters affiliated with the guild, and the hunt would be on. With the exceptions of powerful beings like Jabba the Hutt, Prince Exor, Darth Vader, or Kedarma Butt, most beings contracted hunters in this manner. During the Jedi Civil War, it was possible to merely walk into a bounty hunter office and browse current bounties, as Revan did during his stay on Taris. During the Imperial era, the Empire issued Imperial peacekeeping certificates to bounty hunters. In some cases, bounty hunters were required to lodge a B-23-114 permit in order to collect a maximum possible bounty. Depending on the jurisdiction, a person without a permit could earn a bounty, as was the norm on Lamared. Bounty hunters were almost always mistrusted and feared by locals around the galaxy. This was because their line of work was often very dangerous and frightening. Many famous hunters earned reputations as fearsome as the most horrific Sith lords and criminals. Hunters such as Kalo Nord, Jango Fett, and Cad Bane became household names, though none of them nearly compared to the infamy of Boba Fett. Bounty hunters were not universally rivaled. However, those who followed government regulations and targeted dangerous criminals were often seen as on the side of the law enforcement. On Harun Kal, many Balawi children revered bounty hunters as larger-than-life figures. Generally, bounty hunters remained neutral during times of galactic conflict. They were known to favor one side or another, although never officially joining any one group. For example, the mentioned Kalo Nord worked with the Sith during the Jedi Civil War. The Grand Champion of the Great Hutt worked with the Sith Empire during the Cold War. Jango Fett worked with the Separatists prior to the Clone Wars, and Cad Bane worked with the Separatists during the Clone Wars. Boba Fett often worked with the Empire and even had a professional relationship of mutual respect with Darth Vader. And Vader might have had a liking to him because he sounded like Rex. The Rebel Alliance rarely dealt with bounty hunters, lacking the credits and finding the hunters' methods contradictory to their ways of battle. Most often, however, bounty hunters were hired by individuals, particularly criminals and crime lords. The Exchange, Black Sun, and Zan Consortium, and Jabba the Hutt were particularly fond of using them, both for their effectiveness and their availability. If we refer to when the movies came out in order, so the original trilogy, prequels, then sequels, the bounty hunters first appear in Star Wars A New Hope thanks to everyone's favorite scoundrel, Han Solo. The first time the term appears in the series is on Tatooine, Mos Eisley's cantina, shortly after Greedo points a blaster at Solo, right as he's about to shuffle off to Docking Bay 94. Solo owes Jabba a lot of money, and Greedo's come to collect, telling Solo that Jabba has put a price on his head so large that every bounty hunter in the galaxy is going to be coming after him. Greedo thinks he's lucky because he found him first, but he's not so lucky at all. He doesn't even survive the scene. Greedo, a Rodian, is not necessarily a bounty hunter, only as the Star Wars The Clone Wars Season 3 reveals that he also dabbled in kidnapping and other criminal enterprises. He definitely works for Jabba, but he doesn't seem at all interested in taking Solo alive. This is usually a defining trait in a bounty hunter because their prizes are almost always no good to them dead. Even so, he's our introduction in Star Wars Galaxy to bounty hunters. In The Empire Strikes Back, we meet some real bounty hunters, characters who would go on to define the profession for us. This includes the most famous bounty hunter in Star Wars, Boba Fett. Technically, Boba Fett made his debut in the animated cartoon as part of the Star Wars Holiday Special, which Lucasfilm pretends doesn't exist. He rides a creature of some kind and wields a rifle with a turning fork stuck in the tip, a weapon that will appear in The Mandalorian. All this before we even meet him live action though. Bounty hunters are part of the Empire before Boba Fett appears, though right at the start of the movie when Han and Leia are bickering about Han leaving Hoth, Han says he was planning to stay with the rebels, but the bounty hunter he ran into on Ord Mantell changed his mind. He's still being hunted, and it's not long before Darth Vader hires a bunch of bounty hunters to help his inept bunch of Imperials capture the Millennium Falcon. Admiral Piet has a choice line here. Bounty hunters? You don't need their scum. He's quite wrong. They need all the help they can get. The roster of scum on display in the scene includes Forlum, Zuckuss, the toilet paper wrapped Dengar, a Trandoshan in a flight suit named Bosk, an assassin droid designed IG-88, and the Fester. We don't know how they were contracted or how they got there, and aside from a growl of Bosk, Fett is the only one who talks. Vader's lines make it clear that he's worked with Fett before. He's very firm on there being no disintegrations, probably referring to Mando's rifle as he disintegrates Jawas. Fett's the only one in the bunch who manages to follow Solo, tracking them to Bespin. He actually stands up to Vader, saying that Solo is no good to him dead, and that he's worth a lot to him, the core tenet of bounty hunting. They famously carbon freeze Han, and Vader allows the Fettster to take him to Jabba the Hutt. Boba Fett is back in Star Wars Return of the Jedi, and if you look very closely, Dengar and Bosk are visible in Jabba's palace too. They're not the only bounty hunters there, however. Leia Organa is able to gain entry by pretending to be a member of the profession by going by the name Bosch. Many years later, in one of the Star Wars Forces of Destiny shorts, we saw how Leia duped the real Bosch and stole the outfit. Despite Leia/Bosch being Jabba's kind of scum, fearless and inventive, the ruse dissolves quickly. It's not long until Luke is on the scene, Solo is free, Jabba is dead, and the Fettster goes down the Sarlacc drain in the most undignified way. Boba shows up in all three of the original movies, if you count his appearance alongside the CGI Jabba the Hutt in the special edition of New Hope, but otherwise, that's pretty much all the bounty hunting we see in the original trilogy. When Star Wars Episode 1 The Phantom Menace hit the screen in 1999, we got a lot more from the scum and villainy of Tatooine, slavery being a thing, pod races are huge, junk dealers are awful, etc. But not much of it included bounty hunting, aside from very brief peek at the character named Aurra Sing. It was mostly Star Wars Episode 2 Attack of the Clones that brought bounty hunting back, and added the backstory to Boba Fett. Everyone welcomed Boba's dad Jango Fett, wearing a cleaner rendition of Boba's Mando armor, who hit the Coruscant scene, hiring another bounty hunter, a shape-shifting Claudite named Zam Wesell, to assassinate Senator Amidala. She fails, so Jango snuffs her before she can spill any secrets. Obi-Wan Kenobi goes on a journey to track down the figure and find out what's what. Turns out, it's a little complicated. Kenobi finds Jango in Kamino, where Jango's body and DNA are being used to template for an army of clones. Jango tells Kenobi that he's just a simple man trying to make his way in the universe, and that he was hired for the clone job by a man called Tyrannus. He got paid handsomely for his DNA, and we can see an army of him being bred. He also asked for an unaltered clone for himself, and he raises this clone as a son. This son, of course, is Boba Fett. It's not long before Kenobi is fighting Jango, first on the landing pad and then in space. Obi-Wan tracks him to Geonosis, where it is shown that Jango is working for Count Dooku. Whether or not he knows that the Tyrannus who hired him for the clone job and Count Dooku are the same person is still a matter for debate. For some silly reason, Jango decides to get involved in a massive Jedi battle that erupts on Geonosis, and ends up getting his head chopped off by Mace Windu. In a heartbreaking shot, little Boba holds Jango's helmet to his own head at the end of the scene. Star Wars Episode 3 Revenge of the Sith doesn't really feature any bounty hunters, but we weren't done with them in the prequel era. They came to us in a different form. When the animated Star Wars The Clone Wars blasted its way into the world, the profession got a massive infusion of life. The best bounty hunter in the galaxy, post Jango and before Boba Fett, was a Duros named Cad Bane, who might be the most badass bounty hunter this side of the Nar Shaddaa. Bane hit the screen for the first time in Season 1 in the episode Hostage Crisis. He showed up with Aurra Sing as well as an IG droid. IG-88 certainly wasn't the only Dashley droid who went in for bounty hunting, and Taika Waititi's IG-11 in The Mandalorian will further solidify that tradition. Season 2 of the series went nuts with them, giving us more Cad Bane action right at the start, and an episode titled Bounty Hunters where we learn that sometimes these guys can be a force for good. A small village on Felucia has hired some bounty hunters to protect them from a pirate, Hondo Inaka, who is one of the best Star Wars creations anywhere. A legend, a pirate, but not a bounty hunter. The gang includes a Zabrak named Zugi, a little alien droid suit named Serapis, and a Quuzo named Embo. It doesn't end there either, as Season 2 ends with a trio of episodes where the young Boba Fett is out for vengeance against Mace Windu. He's being mentored by Aurra Sing, and they also have Bosk along, who actually gets to talk a little. Where we really get to know more about how the system of bounty hunting works is all in Season 4. Cad Bane returns for an arc where Obi-Wan goes undercover as a bounty hunter named Reiko Hardeen, and they all have to prove themselves to Count Dooku for a very special mission. The disgusted Kenobi breaks out of a Republic prison that he snuck into with Bane and another hunter named Moralo Aval. Little Fettster and Bosk are in the prison too, but they don't get to join the fun this time. The three of them end up on Sereno, which is Count Dooku's homeworld, in the episode The Box that has a bursting bounty of bounty hunters. They're all there to compete for the same job, and Dooku reads off quick little facts about them that sends the mind racing with multiple kinds of different stories. Most importantly in this episode though, Cad Bane gets his hat back. Season 4 isn't done with bounty hunters though. not by a long shot. Former Sith crony Asajj Ventress decides to try it out, and she takes up a job with a young Fetster in an episode titled Bounty, where Boss pops up again. Also in the mix is a young Dengar and another hunter named Latz Razi. Once Ventress finds out the unsavory nature of the mission, she does the right thing and screws her team over. Boba ends up in a box. It's not until the next episode Brothers that we see Ventress and Razi in a cantina watching some kind of bounty hunting holo program. When a former enemy of hers pops up on it, she decides that she's going to handle this one, and none of the other bounty hunters are going to get in her way. Those were the biggest bounty hunter moments in the Clone Wars, though Dave Filoni has since shown artwork from what would have been the final arc for Cad Bane. We would have seen the Fetster officially take the mantle of the biggest badass around for Bane, and the art looked very western and quite fantastic. Which means Cad Bane still could be out there theoretically, in the time period of The Mandalorian. Perhaps Filoni is intentionally saving material from the animated arc for a live action series. Star Wars Rebels was hot on pirates and smugglers, but didn't feature bounty hunters all that much. The sequel trilogy was not big on bounty hunters. However, we had our visit to Maz Kanata's castle in Star Wars The Force Awakens, and we saw all kinds of galactic retrobaits. We even saw Boba Fett's flag on the castle. Solo: A Star Wars Story was similarly filled with crime syndicates and thieves, but the only real bounty hunter update we got was the news that Tobias Beckett was responsible for killing Aura Singh. There's still a lot that goes into bounty hunting, such as the code, rules of engagement, and partnerships. The Bounty Hunting Guidebook answers all those questions. You should definitely take a look if you haven't yet. Or if you want me to make a video on it, hit that like button, or comment down below. Don't forget to subscribe and check out these videos here, and may the Force be with you.